for more on the new iPhone, let's talk to Lee Simpson. He's Senior Equity Research Analyst at Jefferies International. Welcome to you, Lee. So, was this underwhelming? Were you disappointed?
I think expectations had run away leading up to this device launch. It's a platform improvement as opposed to a full upgrade. I mean, you can see that in the nomenclature of a 4S naming. It's a natural cadence that we saw with the iPhone 3, with the announcement of the 3GS, which was a successful device. 30 million of those devices sold. I expect this one to be a similarly blockbuster-selling device as well.
So you think consumers are going to really, you think their experience is going to be enhanced enough to justify people going out and upgrading?
I think so. I mean, you look at the iOS 5 upgrades, there's a lot of good new functionality in there. Voice activation is a standout feature there. We've also got quite a lot happening around HD video playback. So there's enough capability improvement to keep people buying this device. It still stands out as a good play versus Google's Android 3.0 in the Christmas market.
Lee, we did see the shares fall in the aftermath of that launch yesterday. I mean, how much should we read into that, given that the broader markets in the US were actually up yesterday?
I mean, there was an intraday drop, and then it did stay low towards the end of the day. You get this phenomenon with Apple releasing devices, and we saw it again with the 3GS. Another releases in the past, iPad 2. Usually the follow-on devices have this impact. It's a bit like sell on confirmation, you buy the rumor, that sort of thing. There had been, as I say, runaway expectations on iPhone 5 coming out with LTE, which is full-fat 4G, if you like, OLED screens, mobile payment capabilities. None of this came with Apple this time round. So perhaps that was a disappointment investors were.
While we're on the share price, it's up 16% so far this year, not a single analyst with a sell on the stock.
Yeah.
Is that justified?
It's justified if you look at where it rates as a sort of PE ratio. So basically it's a fairly cheap story here on earnings improvement. Free cash flow generation is still very strong through the cycle. We've got a growth profile that's probably second to none in the high-end market as well. You talked earlier about 130 million devices so far. I think you could probably even hit 500 million by the middle of the decade. So this is a story that isn't slowing down in any regard. So, to my mind, I think it's justified having a buy.
It's not slowing down in any regard, but you have quite stiff competition, and that competition's getting more fierce.
That's true. I think the competition's getting more numerous, and I think a lot of names are coming with platforms, but a lot of these are based on either Android handsets, Android 3.0, going to be a new feature, or now the Windows 7 brigade coming in, Windows Phone 7, with Nokia at the vanguard there. I think a lot of the feature sets that Apple introduced yesterday actually sees that improvement or the benefit yield still being towards Apple devices.
Lee, we saw it was Tim Cook's first big day out since he became chief executive.
Yeah.
He's not exactly Mr. Charisma. Does that matter for a company like Apple?
In the long run, no. You're not going to be thinking of Tim when you're putting your hard-earned cash down to buy a device. But certainly, I think on the day the wobble in the share price, you'll have some Cook factor in there. Really, this wasn't the day to judge Tim Cook. That may come if we do get an iPhone 5 or a sequential change next time round.
Let's go back to this question of competition, because you've got Google having just purchased Motorola, so that it's going to make handsets now. Yeah. So that changes the competition a bit, doesn't it?
A lot of that is in respect to the patent wrangles that you're seeing in the market just now. So you can one of the biggest ones to look at is the dispute between Samsung and Apple itself right now. That they seem to be blocking each other's delivery of handsets into different domains. Google was a soft underbelly when it comes to patents, and it looked like it lacked at least essential patents for 4G technology. This is why they went after Motorola, and it backstopped some of their partners in that space.
So they're still really catching up, and you expect Apple to stay out in front because it is the number. It doesn't have the majority of the market, but it is the #1 single seller of smartphones in the world.
Yeah, I mean, the smartphone space is the secular space, if you like. The growth in the high end is key for all these OEM device makers, and Apple's the lead player in that space.
Yeah, I just want to ask you quickly about emerging markets. I was just reading the other day on the Bloomberg terminal that Apple sells more smartphones in Norway than it does in India, where it's somewhat falling behind. It's only scratching the surface in China, they said last year. How is it doing in these markets? Could that be the Achilles heel for Apple's iPhone?
I think that's the future story rather than the Achilles heel at this point. It was clear in the rhetoric that Tim Cook talked about 5% of the whole handsets market as their market share, rather than play up the 27 or 30% share they have in smartphones. So I think we got the phenomenon of small numbers, or nascency, if you like, that Norway is bigger than India at this point.
But a lot of that also is because the technology in India hasn't quite caught up with the rest of the world, and you need a good infrastructure to use an iPhone.
I mean, the channel's not there yet. I mean, the direct distribution channel, the iPhone stores that we've got here in the West already, or whatever you want to call the developed world nowadays, that's going to come to India. You'll see it. I mean, China's going to be a big market as well. Apple generally gets their timing right, and I think Chinese entry or developing world entry, together with other functionalities such as mobile payments, the use of 4G, they'll come at the right time.
Those unique technologies that are really going to take off, they think, in the emerging markets there.
Sure.
All right, thanks very much. That's Lee Simpson from Jefferies International and our own Elliott Gotkine.